Amma ba'd. As we begin, subhanAllah, it just reminds me of a hadith as we gather around of the fada'il, the virtues of dhikrullah. And that is, there's many different ahadith regarding this, but one that comes to mind is that when the people, they gather to study the Qur'an together, then Rasulullah ﷺ said that the angels, they come and they encompass them, they circle around them, mercy descends upon them, sakina descends upon them, and Allah, He mentions them to the highest assembly. And subhanAllah, what does it mean that mercy, or rather even mercy and sakina, peace and tranquility descends upon those people? Is that we may all be going through difficulties, personal difficulties and issues in our lives. And because of the virtue of that rahmah and that sakina, by the time we go home, we'll find that our affairs, they start getting rectified. Allahu Akbar. And there's so many more. For example, in another narration, Rasulullah ﷺ mentions that a caller from the heavens calls out, stand up and leave. This is by the time we're leaving. For indeed, Allah has taken all of your sins and He has converted them all into good deeds. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Like a brother was asking me earlier on, regarding the people who commit a major sin. And it's mentioned in Surah Furqan, if they commit one of the three major sins, which is shirk, or calling upon other than Allah, and also وَيَقْتُلُونَ النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. So they murder a soul, they kill a soul without due right. And وَلَا يَزْنُونَ, or they commit zina. Whoever does this, they will have double punishment. إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا فَأُولَٰئِكَ يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ. And except for those who repent, they believe in Allah, they perfect their belief in Allah and their iman, and they focus on doing only righteous deeds. Then Allah will take all of their previous sins and He will convert it into good deeds. So the brother asked me, what about us who's never committed, we have been Muslims, born Muslims, we didn't do that, how can we get that? It's simple. Come to the gathering of dhikrullah, you get the same reward. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. May Allah grant us all the best rewards. May Allah grant us all a good understanding. And as we begin, subhanAllah, we were going to continue with the next part of Surah Anbiya, which is the story of Lut alayhi salam. But then we decided that since we have been studying the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and we're literally on the last part, we might as well finish it. We might as well finish the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam and then continue on with the surah. So today we'll be going over the final part of it. But as we begin, always remember La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Now Allah, He mentioned in Surah Taghabun that ma asaba min musibatin illa bi'ithnillah. That no musibah, no calamity, no test, no difficulty comes to you except that is with the permission of Allah. So He sets the test. Allah, He sets the test. And then He sends to you the test. And then He gives you also the strength, the tawfiq. Allah, He mentioned in the Qur'an, وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. That we do not have any tawfiq, any ability except with Allah. He's the one who gives us the tawfiq to be able to do the right thing. So He sends to you the tests, and then He gives you the tawfiq. He gives you the knowledge and the skill set to navigate through it. وَمَن يُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ يَهْدِ قَلْبَهُ. So whoever believes in Allah, He will guide their heart through those difficulties. And it's mentioned also in Surah Sad that with Ayyub alayhi salam, He tested him. He took away his family, He took away his wealth, He took away everything. He only had one of his wives left. And he was bedridden for many years with a disease. Bedridden for many years. And then what did Allah say after the test ended? Inna wajadnahu sabira. Indeed, we found him to be patient. Who gave him that sabr in the first place? And Allah, He mentioned in Surah Nahl, wasbir wama sabruka illa billah. Bear patience, but know that you cannot bear patience illa billah, except that Allah gives you that sabr. So Allah gave him that sabr. And then He praised him for having sabr. Allahu Akbar. How amazing is Ya Rabb? He gives you something, He makes you go through a test, and then He praises you for it, even though He's the one who gave it to you. He guided you through it, He pushed you along. All we had to do was walk along the path. Allahu Akbar. May Allah grant us all a good understanding. For us also, we can implement that. For example, who allows us to offer salah? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We are sitting over here right now. We finished Salatul Isha. Could we offer that on our own power and might? No. We cannot offer salah. We cannot stand for salah. Which is why when the mu'adhin says, Hayya ala salah, come for the salah, what do we say? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no power or might except with Allah. What you're saying is, I don't have any power, I don't have any might to offer salah or to come for success or to achieve success unless Allah grants me the ability to do so. That's the essence of Tawheed, the essence of our relationship with Allah, of submission, of Islam, is that we submit. We have no power at all, except that everything is in the hands of Allah. We do not have power to obey Him, nor do we have power to disobey. Everything is in the hands of Allah alone. Again, may Allah grant us all a good understanding. Also, we remind you that we have to introspect, especially when it comes to our relationship with the Qur'an. And Allah, He mentions, تَنزِيلٌ مِّن رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, that this revelation, it is from the Lord of the worlds. أَفَبِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَنْتُمْ مُدْهِنُونَ. So how is it then that you hear that this Qur'an is a revelation from Rabbul Alameen, and we are still indifferent, we're not trembling, we're not like awakened, our hearts does not awaken like, wow, this is the word, Qur'an al-Kareem, the precious words of the Almighty Himself. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Again, may Allah grant us all a good relationship with the Qur'an. And so we've been over quite a few details of the life of Ibrahim A.S. So from Egypt, they did hijrah to Ash-Sham, correct, Palestine, or the areas of Palestine, Syria, Damascus, etc., etc. When he was there, that is when he was gifted with Ismail A.S. And shortly after he was given Ismail A.S., he had to take him and leave him and Hajar in the valley of Mecca. And after that, it's mentioned that after that he would go to visit them, and whenever he could, he would travel there, he would travel back. And so the time comes when now the next test of Allah, it's about to happen. And Allah, He mentions it, it's in Surah Safat, where He mentions that Ibrahim A.S., he made a dua to Allah. رَبِّ هَبْ لِي مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, that my Lord, gift me from the righteous. And the ulama, they explain that the first thing from this is that all of the prophets, all of the Anbiya, they all used to make this dua. They would all ask Allah for righteous offspring so that their offspring could continue the da'wah after them. They could pick up and carry on, serving the deen of Allah. All of the Anbiya, they used to think about the long-term generation. Subhanallah, Allah, He mentions that, Ibrahim wa Ishaq wa Ya'quba, He defines them as ulil aydi wal absar. Absar is long-term vision. They never only thought about now. They thought about years ahead, generations ahead. Look at the dua of Ibrahim A.S. And we should try and be like this. This is a lesson for us that we shouldn't only think about now. That, okay, there's situations happening in the Ummah now. The situation in Palestine is happening just now. We should be thinking years ahead, generations ahead. What's going to be happening with your children's children's children? Are they going to have the correct aqeedah? Are they going to continue following the sunnah? Are your generation going to be falling into bid'ah? Are your generation going to be falling into Christianity and Judaism and other religions? What are you going to do to ensure that Islam remains in your family? That is the way of the Anbiya. May Allah grant us all a good understanding. May Allah make us all like them. May Allah preserve our deen for us and use us to preserve the deen. And so Allah, He mentions, فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. So we gave him the good news of a forbearing child. Who was the child? Ismail A.S. Another lesson learned over here is that children, we are supposed to be like Ismail A.S. He was described as Halim, forbearing and gentle with his parents. And so for those, of us who we end up disrespecting our parents, we're not forbearing with them, we cause them a lot of misery and grief. It's quite shameful then to say that we are the inheritors of the Anbiya. That the Muslims, we are supposed to be like the Anbiya, but then we're causing stress to our parents. It's supposed to be the other way around. Allahu Akbar. May Allah protect us. May Allah grant us all birrul walidain. So again, recall that immediately he was commanded to take them to and leave them in the valley of Bakkah. It's mentioned that when Ibrahim A.S. left them there, he turned and he started walking away. Then his wife, Hajar, she called out, alayha salam, that, are you just leaving us here? He did not respond. And then again she called out, like, why are you leaving us in a place where there's no vegetation? Biwadin ghayri dhi zar'. There is no vegetation, there's no water, there's nothing. We cannot survive. Again, he remained silent. And then the third time she asked, is Allah sending you? Is this the command of Allah? And that is when he responded, one word, yes. SubhanAllah, again, it shows Ibrahim A.S, the complete submission he had to Allah. And it's mentioned in the next ayah also that once Ismail A.S, he reached the age called Sa'ya. Sa'ya is effort, or the age when the youngsters, they start exerting themselves. It's known to be the age where they are supposed to start aiding and helping their parents. And this is something that's mentioned in the Qur'an. Another extraction for us, another lesson for us. Children, once you reach of age, you're actually supposed to be helping to serve your parents. In this day and age, we have it now, it's completely upside down. That the moment the child is maybe 14, 15 years old, that's it, the parent, you can't tell me what to do anymore. How dare you think you can tell me what to do, mom? Your mom telling you, take the bins out. Why are you telling me now? I'll do it later. Look at the Anbiya. Look at Ismail alayhi salam. They had birrul walidain is this. They were serving their parents. Never in the history of Islam has it been the case where a child would even talk back to their parents. In this day and age, we see it again, like, when parents say, like, how dare you talk back at me? Because it's absurd. In reality, according to the truth, to the haqq, it's absurd that parents, or rather children, can speak back to their parents. Which Anbiya did so? Look at Ismail alayhi salam. Look at Isa alayhi salam. When he mentions that Allah has made me kind and gentle, He has not made me a jabbar towards my mother. Now the question we have to ask ourselves, youngsters today over here, are you a jabbar towards your parents? May Allah protect us. But it's something you have to reflect over. Are you a jabbar, a compeller? Do you force your parents to agree with you? Maybe you want something and they know better than you. They know that it's not good for you, but you're forcing them and you're forcing them and you're forcing them. Young adults today, I want to get married to this person. And now you're becoming a jabbar with your own parents because no, you have to agree that I want to get married to this person. Don't say a word because I'm going to get married anyways. And this is how we treat our parents today. Completely the opposite from the Anbiya. May Allah protect us. May Allah grant us only good understanding. And again, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the one who's disrespectful to his parents, uququl walidain, al-aaq it's called, his salah, his dua, his ibadah doesn't go past his ears. Allah does not accept it. It doesn't go past his ears. Allahu Akbar. Ya Rabbi, help me, I got my exams tomorrow. But you are busy being rude to your parents early on today. You think Allah's going to accept it? No. Suddenly, usually we tend to play our games and stuff, and then exam times come, or we start going through a difficulty. Suddenly we start offering the salah. We're still disrespectful to our parents. The first thing you need to do, children, ensure that you are respectful with your parents. At the same time, we also have to tell parents, ensure that you are kind towards your children. Rasulullah said, "Laysa minna man lam yarham saghirana." You are not from us. You are not from this ummah. We disown you if you are not compassionate towards our children. So again, may Allah grant us all unity. May Allah grant us all rahmah with one another, compassion, love, and unity. And so Allah, He continues to say, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Subhanallah. So powerful. These ayat, it causes shivers. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ. That once he reached the age, as we explained, of sa'ya, of exertion, where he's supposed to be working with his father. قَالَ Ibrahim A.S. went to Ismail and he said, Ya bunay. And this is a loving term. And I would suggest, again, for those of us, we try to be like the Anbiya. We should be using these terms for our children. Call your children, call your sons, Ya bunay. Oh, my beloved son. Subhanallah. How loving it is. Especially Rasulullah ﷺ would say, Ya bunay, even to the young Sahaba. Ibrahim A.S. said, Ya bunay. Luqman is mentioned in the Qur'an. He also said the very same, Ya bunay. Call your children with this name. Say, Ya bunay, oh my beloved son. Inni ara fil manami anni athbahuk. Indeed I have seen in my dreams, I had a vision that I was athbahuk, I was slaughtering you, I was sacrificing you. Fandur madha tara. So tell me, look, what do you see? Another point, subhanallah, this is the Khalil of Allah, the second most beloved to Allah from all of creation. The most beloved being Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The Khalil of Allah, at this point is mentioned in the reports that he is 97 years old. And Ismail alayhi salam is 13 years old. And he's saying, Fandur madha tara. The father is asking the son, what should you advise me? 97-year-old father asking 13-year-old son, tell me what's your opinion. Look at that. Look at the approach. Look at the respect. Look at the honor he gives to his children. That yes, fair enough, I'm the father. I'm the wiser one. I know better than you. I'm the prophet of Allah. I'm the Khalil of Allah. I had a dream that I got to kill you. I got to chop your neck. Come, little child. He didn't do that. He went, Fandur madha tara. Tell me, my son, what's your opinion? What's your counsel? Speak to me. What's your thoughts? And then, qala, ya abati. Oh my father, oh my beloved father. If'al, do what you are commanded. If'al ma tu'mar. Do what you are commanded. Satajiduni insha'Allahu min as-sabirin. You will find me by the will of Allah steadfast and patient. Again, subhanallah, you have to, commend Ismail alayhi salam. He's 13 years old at this point. Young. Yet he's saying, and he knows that obviously, that a prophet, when a prophet has a dream, then it is part of wahi. It is part of revelation. And so he knows this at this point that, look, Allah has commanded my father that he has to sacrifice me. 13 years old, imagine getting sacrificed. What does he say? I will be of those who are patient. I place my trust in Allah. Again, subhanallah, it's so amazing. It is so, so amazing. Again, may Allah grant us all a good understanding. May Allah grant us all steadfastness, istiqamah, to always place our trust in Him correctly and to be like Ibrahim A.S. Again, with adab. Again, let's emphasize on the adab that father had to son. These days, many children, they have the same complaints like, oh, I'm always just told what to do. I never feel as though I get to have a say in anything. But if you try to be like Ibrahim A.S., oh parents, speak with your children after you've come home from work. Instead of just saying, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to do that. Don't do that. Look at Ibrahim A.S., be like him. Sit down with them, speak with them. When you're going to make a big decision, also take their opinion. Or we're planning to move to a different place. Tell me, what do you think? Ya bunay, oh son, oh daughter, what do you think? I'm planning to change my job. Tell me what you think. I'm planning to do this. Tell me what you think. It makes them feel honored. It makes them feel like you really value them. That you value your children. And that is how the bond, it is strengthened. And so again, may Allah make us like the Anbiya. May Allah enable us to follow their example. And so again, let us recall what we first said, that regarding Ayyub alayhi salam, Allah, He took everything away, He gave him the test, and then He gave him sabr. And when he had that sabr, Allah praised him for it. Likewise, even right now, Allah is the one who set this test for Ismail alayhi salam and for Ibrahim alayhi salam. And He's given now, He's the one who's given them the strength. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It's a very difficult test. It is beyond imagination, which up until this day, we commemorate. We commend the very same sacrifice and submission that Ibrahim A.S. had. It's called HAJJ. The entire rituals of HAJJ is all as a celebration for how Ibrahim A.S. he submitted to Allah. And despite it being the hardest test, imagine for 97 years of your life, you've been wishing for a child. You've been yearning for a child. And now you get good news that you're going to have a child at 97 years old. And the moment he's born, Allah says, you got to go leave him. And so you go and you leave him. So you don't get to experience his upbringing. The joyful years, usually they call it. Now he's 13 years old. And now he gets the command again. Now you got to go sacrifice your son. But look at Ibrahim A.S. He doesn't question Allah. Immediately he submits. Sami'ana wa ata'ana. Allahu Akbar. He submits and he does it. And so again, even that comes through the quwwah of Allah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We want to be of those who submit wholeheartedly, just like Ibrahim A.S. The moment we feel like we want to do that, We want to be like that. That is when you say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. But with desire, with raghbah. That you know that there's no power or might except with Allah. So when you're saying, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, in your heart you're saying, Ya Rabb, I really want to be like Ibrahim A.S. Submitting to you. And all power and might is in your hands. So you guide me to be like that. And then that will happen. Allahu Akbar. That will happen. Again, may Allah grant us all a good understanding. So Allah is the one who set the test for them. Allah has now given them the strength. Allah guides them along the path. Allah is the one who does everything for them, and they just walk in the path at this point. And look what happens. Look at, subhanAllah, it causes shivers at this point when Allah, He continues to say, فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ. When they submitted to the will of Allah, they had no resistance in their heart. At first, when they were traveling on the way, Shaitan even, he came to them. And this is why it's called the Jamarat. During the HAJJ season, we throw stones. And again, it's as a reminder for us that Shaitan, during this test, he tried to stop Ibrahim A.S. He tried to entice him away. He tried to, this is your only son. It's too big of a test. Allah is Ghafur Rahim, He'll forgive you anyway. Just ask Allah to say you can't do it. But Ibrahim A.S., every single time he does that, he takes the stones, he stones him. Like, get lost. Go away. Go very far away from me. I seek refuge in Allah from Shaitan. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan. And so when now, it's the time, it's the moment. Ismail A.S., he's lying. And the knife, it's in the hand of Ibrahim A.S. And he's slowly bringing it to the neck. And at this point, he's trembling. He cannot even, hold the knife. Imagine it's your only son. Now, of course, he's a human being. How do you think he's feeling at this point? But then at that moment, he realizes that Allah, He's Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, He's Ar-Rahman, He is Ar-Rahim, He is my Rabb. He's the one who's most merciful. He's not going to make me go through a test just for the sake of, nothing. Rather, it's all honor for us. So he finds that resolve. He submits. فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَ. When they find that resolve in their heart and they submit to Allah, He put him down on his forehead and he's just about to slaughter him. Allah waits for the moment when there's no more resistance and he's ready as he will ever be. That is when Allah, He calls out, وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَن يَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ. We called out to him, Ya Ibrahim. Imagine this moment, subhanallah. It's so powerful. قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. Verily, you have been truthful. You have fulfilled the vision. You have passed the test. إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Indeed, this is how we reward those who do good. Allah, He continues to say, إِنَّ هَذَا لَهُوَ الْبَلَاءُ الْمُبِينَ. That indeed this was just a clear trial. This was just a test. From the moment, from the beginning, we were only testing you. We were only testing you to see how you do it. We weren't actually going to make you sacrifice your only child. Subhanallah. So it was all a test for Ibrahim A.S. Subhanallah. And the honor that he receives after that. As Allah, He continues to mention, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. That we gave him we ransomed him with a great sacrifice. Up until this day, we even commemorate that when we do our qurbani. And subhanallah, Allah, He mentions, وَتَرَكْنَا عَلَيْهِ فِي الْآخِرِينَ سَلَامٌ عَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. And so, وَتَرَكْنَا عَلَيْهِ فِي الْآخِرِينَ. We left for Ibrahim alayhi salam a honorable mention in the later generations. What's the honorable mention? We are sitting right now, thousands and thousands of years later, and we're still speaking about Ibrahim alayhi salam, the friend of Allah. Look at with how much love Allah, He speaks about Ibrahim alayhi salam. He mentioned, إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. This is how we reward the good doers. Allah, He says it again to emphasize the point. كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That this is how we reward the doers of good, those who are the muhsineen, those who have ihsan. They make themselves excellent for the sake of Allah. They beautify everything about themselves for Allah. Indeed, he was one of our believing slaves. He was one of the mu'mineen. And then after that, years later, one of the ways Allah, He rewards him for that sacrifice is that when Ismail alayhi salam, he continued growing, Allah, He commands them to build the Kaaba. And so Allah, He also mentioned in Surah Baqarah that him and Ismail alayhi salam, they are charged with building the Kaaba. Look at the honor that Allah gave Ibrahim alayhi salam. After this final test, it's just honor upon honor upon honor. In this life and also in the next. In the next is honor upon honor, favor upon favor. The pleasure of Allah upon the pleasure of Allah. That is what we are striving for. And subhanallah. And so after they built the Kaaba, Allah, He mentions, call out, give the command for the people to come for Hajj. Thousands of years ago, He gives the call. And up until this day, we are now responding to it. We are hearing the call and we are responding to it, and we are going for the Hajj. May Allah grant us all acceptance to fulfill our Hajj. For those of us who can afford it. For those of us who can't, may Allah grant us all the ability to do so also. Again, for those who do not have the ability, for those who do not have the means to go, then of course you are excused up until that point. Subhanallah, today we're finding people online, because of the situation going on in Gaza, they're saying we should be boycotting Hajj. Allahu Akbar. This is something, by the way, let's talk about it very, very quickly. To boycott the Hajj, it's a word that is as close to kufr as possible. Maybe it's not kufr. If you know that it's a pillar of Islam and that it's your obligation, you have not committed kufr. But if you think that you have a choice perhaps, with the pillars of Islam, we are not allowed to sort of pick and choose. So if we think that it's not an obligation, we can boycott it, and stuff like that, then we have actually committed kufr and we have to retake our shahada. But for those who are saying we need to boycott the Hajj because the money is going to the regime who's supporting against our brothers and sisters in Palestine, what do you think they do with that Hajj money? What do you think they do? Who's looking? Where does all the funding come from for Masjid al-Haram and Masjid al-Nabawi to upkeep it? All the cleaners. Even during the time of Hajj, have you seen, all the tents, all the places, the way it's run? Who's paying them? Where's the money coming from? That very same Hajj money that you paid for. It's going for your own Hajj. Likewise with the animals that you put on sacrifice. Maybe you didn't have to do it yourself, they did it for you, but everything. Imagine millions and millions of people sacrificing animals, all the blood, everything. Who's cleaning it? Who's paying for that? You are with your own Hajj money. So if you're saying, I'm going to boycott the Hajj because they're going to use the money, it's foolish. Because that money that you're paying for with your own Hajj package is for your own benefit, to make things easier for you when you go for Hajj. But people, they don't think at times. May Allah protect us all from that. And even regarding when we go for Hajj and for Umrah, we do the sa'i, we run between Safa and Marwa. And very, very quickly the story is when Ibrahim a.s. left Hajar and Ismail a.s. in the valley, and Ismail a.s. he started becoming hungry, started crying for water and for food. And at this point there was none. So she started running between the two hills of Safa and Marwa. And then by the seventh time, she heard a voice. And according to the report, it was Jibreel alayhi salam. And she called out, help us. And so he struck the earth just by the feet of Ismail alayhi salam. And that is when the Zamzam started gushing forth. Yet another miracle given to who? The family of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Something we are benefiting from up until this day. For those who get close to Allah, they have a very similar honor. Allah, He mentions we will give them an honorable mention in the future generations. Up until this day we find, look at the ulama in our deen. We still mention their names. Umar ibn al-Khattab, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, the Sahaba, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Maliki, all of these scholars that we still use as an example up until this day, who preserved their honor. Allah, He mentioned at the beginning of Surah Anbiya, لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ كِتَابًا فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ. We have revealed to you a book in which it is your honor. If you live by the Qur'an, if you adorn yourself according to the teachings of the Qur'an, align your actions with the Qur'an and the Sunnah, then it's honor for you. Just like how we made Bedouins in the middle of an Arab country that was the weakest of countries at the time. The two big empires at the time, the Byzantines and the Persians, when they had to speak about the Arabs, they would give no regard. Just random people, they have no power, no izzah, nothing. And look at how Allah made them the best of people, because they had the Qur'an. Again, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions, it's the Qur'an that honors us. If we abandon it, then we will be dishonored. Likewise also Umar ibn Khattab, he mentioned that it is through the Qur'an that you were raised as a nation. The moment you turn away from the Qur'an, you abandon living by the Qur'an, Allah will drop this nation. Allahu Akbar. We see that happening today. Again, may Allah grant us all a good understanding and perfect our relationship with the Qur'an. And so coming near the end, that is where the story of Ibrahim A.S. and, the trials, the main key events of his life, it ends. Allah, He mentions thereafter in Surah Safat that we gave him Ishaq A.S. And he even made Ishaq A.S. also a prophet. And we'll continue with the tafsir from next week because Allah, He mentions Ishaq A.S. in Surah Anbiya. But for the reflections that we can take and the lessons that we can take today, it's like imagine the test comes to you now. And Allah, He says in Surah Anbiya that وَنَبْلُوكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً, that we're going to test you with evil and with good. Evil times, good times. We will test you with it. Also evil things that you may hate. Anything that you may find evil. Whether it be disease, maybe it's war, maybe it's poverty, something that you really don't like. Allah is saying we may test you with it. And also with khair, that which you love. We'll test you with that which you love. You love your phones? We'll test you with it. You love your entertainment, your PS5s and PS6s and 7s, we'll test you with it. You love your friends, we'll test you with them. We may allow them to disobey us by going to the shisha houses and the pubs and the clubs and gossiping and doing all the wrong things as a test to see what are you going to do regarding that. Are you going to enjoin the good, forbid the bad, and stand with the truth? Or are you going to compromise your deen just so that you can fit in with your friends and the bad company? You like education? Maybe you're going to uni, to college. We usually don't love it. We just see it as something that we have to do. But we'll test you over there too, with all the fitna and the corruption that's surrounding you. What are you going to do about it? And subhanAllah, imagine then with all of those things that Allah tested you with, you really didn't want to go through that divorce. You really didn't want to go through that poverty. You really didn't want to lose that home of yours. You really didn't want to go through that, but Allah, He made you go through it anyways. And because of that, you had patience instead. You rectified your affairs, you turned to Allah. And because of that, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, when He called you forth, imagine He just says to you, قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ. Indeed, you have been truthful. Imagine all of the difficulties in your past, and that will come in the future. And you navigate it, having firm yaqeen in Allah, being like Ibrahim A.S. And then you're called forth in Yawm al-Qiyamah, and He says to you, قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ. Just like how He said to Ibrahim A.S., قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. Obviously, ru'ya is a vision, so it's not that. But قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ. Indeed, you have been truthful. We are the ones who tested you. It was only ever a test. Just like how He mentions to Ibrahim A.S., it was just a test. Nothing more. We weren't displeased with you. Many a times, sometimes when we go through difficulties, we start thinking Allah is displeased with you. مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Allah, He mentions, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ مُعَذِّبَهُمْ وَهُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. For as long as you continue seeking istighfar, Allah will never punish you. He said so in Surah Anfal. Allah will not punish a people for as long as they seek istighfar. So even though we're sinning on a daily basis, but a few times a day we're saying, Ya Rabb, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Our salah is a form of dua, actually. And it is also a form of istighfar. It is a kafara of the sins. Between Dhahr and Asr and Maghrib, it is all a kafara from one salah to the next. Likewise from one Jumu'ah to the next. Likewise from one Ramadan to the next. Rasulullah ﷺ said, it is all a kafara. It wipes out all of the sins that was done between them. So imagine you just persist. You are patient, you are steadfast, you just focus on perfecting and getting closer to Allah. And then all of those tests that you went through, and we're still wondering about it in this day and age, like, why did Allah make me go through that? And then suddenly you're called forth in Yawm al-Qiyamah, and He says, قَدْ صَدَّقَتَ الرُّؤْيَا, without the ru'ya. But indeed you have been truthful. He said, Salamun ala Ibrahim. Imagine hearing that on Yawm al-Qiyamah for you, because of that test you had to go through. Because of that time you had to go to the hospital. You didn't want to, it's not nice to go. You had to go for a surgery or something. But because of that, Allah says, Salamun alayka ya abdi. Peace upon you, go to Jannah, my slave. Because you had patience. You didn't want to lose your children. You didn't want to lose your parents. You had to. Allah was going to test you with it. This is how we be like Ibrahim A.S. And likewise also sacrifice. Look at how Ibrahim A.S. was willing to sacrifice that which he loved the most for Allah. And how do we bring that? Look at what you love the most, but it is not in the pleasure of Allah. Look at your sins. Look at your lives. Look within. Maybe you have that grudge deep inside your heart from that person who did something to you 50 years ago now. Are you willing to put it to the sacrifice for the pleasure of your Lord? Because that is how we can live this example of Ibrahim A.S. Look at your sins. Try to put it to the sacrifice for the sake of Allah with the best hopes in Allah that He will also honor you like how He honored Ibrahim A.S. There's been many people in the past, and we'll finish on this note. For example, Imam Suhail, rahimullah. In his young years, he was a thief. He was a thief. He used to rob people. This was in Iraq, I think. And then one day, he was attracted to this one lady. So he was trying to climb over the wall to go and see her. And then he heard the Qur'an. One ayah changed his life. And there's been many examples of one ayah changing so many people's lives. Even with the hadith. People hear just one hadith, it changes their lives. They turn their lives around. They repent to Allah. And the one ayah that he heard, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Now, has the time not come for those who claim to be believers to humble themselves to the remembrance of Allah? And something just turned in his heart at that point. Allah is muqallib al-qulub, He turns the heart. He's al-fattah, He opens the heart. At that point, He opened his heart. Something turned on. And he was like, yes. He responded, yes, actually the time has come. And all of a sudden he reflected over his life. I'm robbing people and I call myself a believer? How could I be doing that? And so he got off the wall. He started walking to his hideout. And on his way to his hideout, he was trying to think, how can I change my life? I need to leave this place. And then on his way, he heard people having a conversation. The two people was like, hurry, go quickly, otherwise that Fudail is going to come and rob you. And he started breaking down crying. Is this what people think about me? What have I been doing? Allahu Akbar. Allah has favored me. What have I been doing? And so he left that place. He went to Medina and he became to be known as one of the greatest ulama up until this day. One of the greatest. He was literally known as the Imam of good character. The Imam of good character. He went to Medina, he studied, and then he started teaching people. How many people they've lived a life of haram? Easy, just sacrifice it for the sake of Allah, turn it around. Allah will honor you. Up until this day, we're still using his teachings also in our lectures. Allahu Akbar. And that's why even people, sometimes they think that in order to be close to Allah, in order to be an honored slave, in order to be a wali of Allah, you need to be, pious, not committing any sins, nothing like that. Only then Allah will honor you. He'll make you, he'll raise your esteem, in his sight and also in the sight of the people. And this is where we get it wrong. Because you don't have to be the best of people. Look at Imam Mahdi. When Imam Mahdi comes, it's mentioned that he's going to be a normal person that commits sins just like all of us here. But overnight, Allah is going to rectify him. Overnight, over one night, Allah is going to guide him and he's going to become the leader and the best of all people. The same thing can happen to us. But we just need to want it. We need to want to be close to Allah and have that same sort of honor and be like our ulama and like the Sahaba also. And like the Anbiya, may Allah make us again like them. And we'll finish on this note, this one hadith. Why should we sacrifice the sins? Why should we try to be like the Anbiya? Khalilullah, the friend of Allah. He mentions, Rasulullah ﷺ, he mentions in perhaps the most amazing hadith I've ever heard and you'll ever hear. That Abu Hurairah radiyallahu an reports that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that Allah said, so it's a hadith Qudsi, Allah said that whoever shows any hostility to a wali of mine, to a friend of mine, then I will wage war upon him. Allahu Akbar. And my slave does not get closer to me with anything more beloved to me than what I have made farad upon him. So we cannot get closer to Allah with anything more beloved to Allah than the farad. Which is why He's made those salah and hajj and all of that which we have to do, our obligations, He's made it punishable if we don't do it. Because of His rahmah. That if you don't do it, He's saying, look, I want you to be in Jannah. So if you don't do this 5 salah, I'm going to punish you because then you're going to go away from me. You're going to be distanced. Because the slave does not get closer to Allah with anything more beloved to Allah than those salah. The salah that sometimes we don't want to do. Sometimes we become lazy and stuff like that. May Allah grant us all a good understanding. He continues to say that my servant, he continues to come closer and closer and closer to me after he's done his obligations with the nawafil, with the optional ibadah. Maybe with the, tahajjud once a week. Or maybe just adhkar. Some adhkarul subah, adhkarul masa. Or maybe just, on his way to work, he would make a habit to send salawat to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just on his way to work and on the way back from work. No other time. So with all these little deeds, he kept on getting closer and closer and closer to Allah up until I love him. Allahu Akbar. And when, by the way, this is not talking about the ulama, this is not talking about imams, this is not talking about, those who are just always worshipping Allah, about the normal person, you and me. The normal person who has to work and do everything. The young children also. Those everybody can be a wali of Allah. We should just want it. So Allah, He continues to say that when I begin to love my slave, I become the sense of hearing that he hears with, the sense of sight that he sees with, the hands that he strikes with, and the feet that he walks with. What this means is that Allah, He protects your faculties. Number one, He protects it from sin, from that which is displeasing to Him. So one easy way to be able to leave sin also is focus on doing your ibadah, do adhkar, get closer to Allah. Allah, He'll protect your sight from the haram. He'll protect your hearing from the haram. He'll protect your hands from doing that which is haram. He'll protect your feet from going to places that is displeasing to Him. And it also means that He will protect it from corruption later on in your life. So this is a story regarding Imam Tabari. He is one of the most famous mufassirin. He made one of the biggest tafsir books, Imam Tabari. The tafsir of At-Tabari is one of the biggest tafsir books there is. Every single person who studies tafsir, he refers to the tafsir of Tabari first. Because all of the usul is one of the usul, the principles of deen that is regarded in this day. And so now he was old at this point, over the age of 100. And he and his companions decide to go visit some other people on the mountains. Imagine 100 years old and he's walking up the mountain like he's young and healthy, jumping over the little potholes and everything, climbing with vigor and stamina. And his student is watching him. It's like, what is this? Is Superman over here? Allahu Akbar. Imam Superman here. And so then after, when they were all sitting, he went and he asked him, Ustad, like, how is this happening? What's possible? And look at what he said. When I was a young person, I protected these faculties. I protected this body for Allah. So now in my old age, Allah is protecting it for me. He's protecting it from deterioration. He's protecting it from loss, which is why his sight, everything is still there. And one easy way, that's one lesson we can take from the hadith. Allah, He continues to say at this point, وَلَئِن سَأَلَنِي, that the slave who I love, if he has to ask me anything, لَأُعْطِيَنَّ, I will definitely give it to him without a doubt. When Allah uses the lam, the emphatic lam, it is to place an emphasis to clear any doubt that will Allah give me. Actually, Allah is saying, لَأُعْطِيَنَّ, without a doubt. Whatever my slave asks for, I will give it to him. At this point, because you're beloved to Allah, ask for your PS5 if you want to. Ask for your games. Ask for this and that. Allah will still give it to you, as long as you maintain that good relationship with Him. SubhanAllah. And if my slave seeks refuge in me from anything that he doesn't like, I will definitely protect him. And this is the best part. That Allah, He says, I do not hesitate to do anything. Because He's Allah. Allah doesn't need to hesitate. He's the all-knowing, the all-powerful. He says, I do not hesitate to do anything as I hesitate to take the soul of my believing slave, because he hates death and I hate to disappoint him. That's Allah. That's Allah, subhanallah. Allah the King hating to disappoint insignificant insan. That's what happens. That's the honor for the one who becomes the wali of Allah. Just a little bit extra after your fara'id. May Allah make us all true close friends to Him, like Ibrahim A.S. May Allah grant us all closeness to Him. We'll keep it over there. اللهم اجعل خير أعمالنا آخرة وخير أعمالنا خواتمة واجعل خير أيامنا يوم نلقاك اللهم ارزقنا حبك. We ask Allah to provide for us His love وحب من ينفعنا حبه عندك, and the love of those that will benefit us with him. Allahumma ma razaqtana mimma nuhib. Oh Allah, whatever you have provided for us of that which we love, فَجَعَلْهُ قُوَّةً لَنَا فِي مَا تُحِبْ. Make it quwwah, power for us or strength for us to do that which you love. Allahumma wa ma zawayta anna mimma nuhib. Oh Allah, whatever you have withheld from us of that which we love, فَجَعَلْهُ فَرَاغًا لَنَا فِي مَا تُحِبْ. Then make it a source of rest for us in that which you love. Allahumma انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وارزقنا علما تنفعنا به. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد. أقول قولي هذا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.